This is Kitten Features, and you're listening to ShowX Live with Ken in a student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wayne in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
I did the wrong thing again. Stop that. Bad me. I was totally not paying attention as I hit the stream deck looking to see if Ken was here yet and missed the wrong button. Sorry about that. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. It is 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this Sunday, the 29th of March, 2020. And while we are waiting, Ken is unfortunately dealing with real-life technical difficulties in the sense that apparently his house is, what is it? His whole complex or wherever he's at is suffering a power outage right now. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens with that one, Ken. Hopefully you're back quickly. And so we'll see. But yeah, he let me know that unfortunately he is suffering of, like, we were just talking, just getting started, and it all went blank, but he was able to message me on his phone that it's out. And to get things kicked off right away, we have a quick public service announcement from our friend, Mr. Corona.
Hello, it is I, Mr. Corona. I am here today with a special message for everybody in the USA. United States of America, you are doing great. Do not isolate. Keep doing what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. We do not need to isolate because I want to visit all of you. Also, what is your deal with toilet paper? I mean, Corona sits in the lungs, not in the butt. Oh well. Whatever you're doing, dear America, please keep doing it. No need to isolate, because I want to visit everybody over there. That is all. Corona out.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Corona, although I do question your motives. And thank you to Pusa for providing that content for us. I love it. It's good times. Also, so with that, and until Ken gets here, I am going to go ahead and start off with a little bit of
Dysfunctional Deviations.
So for this week, first, if you were there for the music break, or just before the music, sorry, you would have heard a couple songs from two of the kids in the McIntosh family, and that I'm happy to share, and I will be playing one of Saree's songs during the music break, and so you'll have to let me know what you think. And with that, if you guys are curious or interested, we might even see if they would be willing to come on the show sometime. There's some really neat kids that I met originally when I was breakdancing with School of Breaking here in Aurora, Colorado, and they've since moved on to greener pastures, I guess, or adventuring into the world to do a little more. They both, I think, have been acting as well. And I know Saree on our IMDb has a credit for a couple shows she's in, and they both recently just kicked off their music careers. And so I'm sharing their music with you, and hopefully you guys appreciate that and enjoy it. All right, so what has been going on this week that isn't geek? So one of the things as we start talking about coronavirus still and things like that, the things I want to focus on is a lot of how people are dealing with the social isolation and things. Shouts out to a couple people. One, generally the public as a whole that have all found means to still interact, stay entertained, and do things while at home. Right now, I was going to throw a shout out to my buddy Scotty B. He's been DJing every Saturday. He normally DJs around the country for major events. He's one of the Toshindo members that I have been available to train with multiple times. He's an amazing teacher. He's a great DJ and things like that. And I might have to find a link for him to show out as well. He's been doing these live streams every Saturday night I've been listening to that just get me dancing and mobile, which is a lot of fun. Also, I was going to talk a little bit about the, again, Netflix party that happens out there. If people haven't tried it, it's a plugin to Chrome that allows you to have a live chat while watching a synced video via Netflix. A friend of mine invited me in with her crew. I had said we'd watched Ant-Man and Wasp together as a group. This time we watched this YouTube, or I'm sorry, it's a Netflix show that has been blowing up my social media, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe some of you have seen it as well. But it is the show is Tiger King, and I think there's a afterpiece to that. And I'm curious if any of you have watched it yet. For me, it is like the hottest reality train wreck you can see right now. I think described as a little bit of every bad reality TV rolled into one. It is, in its own way, king of the reality sector. It's ridiculous. Let's see, keeping up, and I'm happy that Pusa's in the chat there, saying, fun fact, Mr. Corona was made in order to get my kids to take hand washing seriously. Well, nice. Did not know that piece of it, and it comes out as something that we all can benefit from with a bit of tongue-in-cheek humor. Also, saying that, Preacher, hey, always good to see you in our Star Citizen crew. I'm trapped here with my wife and children. Oh, no, face. And Pusa coming in saying, Puppets are easy. Spawn made a marionette. Respawn got a sock puppet hybrid. Very nice. And you are about to finish your 14-day quarantine. Well, that is good to hear. Hopefully going back to work for you is a good transition and your country is surviving and doing well from it. Now, granted, you are in a much smaller country, and I guess I haven't really asked you any details of how things are going on there specifically as part of the overall European response, and knowing that there's other countries near you that have significant issues. But yes, as we come in there, so Tiger King. Oh boy, is this a thing. So for those who don't know, this is a documentary-ish. Essentially, a camera is following around groups of people that were all associated with the overall big cat, what I would say, not trade specifically, but things around big cats that include private zoos, rescues, and the interaction of the public with big cats. What are normally wild animals, these ones pretty much all in captivity of some sort. And really, the focus, while initially talking about the big cat industry as a whole, focuses much more specifically on the personalities that are around the big cats. And wow, if they are not some distinct personalities. They are people that you would only, I would think, imagine to be real and to believe to be true. It is impressive, the things they come up with. So that's something that, how do I describe? I don't want to spoil, and ooh, ouch, ouch, ouch. So with that in mind, it looks like we may not get a Ken back on today. He says that their power company, he just talked to them, and says that their expected fix is about 4.5 hours. And if that is the case, then I don't know if we're coming back from that. I will double check. I don't know if I've updated my profile here. Oh, I have. I can go to the solo profile real quick. Hey, that still works. Good deal. And then we'll just go with this. You'll get to see bigger, brighter, beautiful me until such time as maybe Ken lucks out and gets power back. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Literally dropped off 10 minutes before the show. We were just getting our Skype set up, and he just disappeared. So that is unfortunate. But hey, random solo show. Here we go. All right. And yes, thank you. Everybody writing an email. I much appreciate it. VtWShowX@gmail.com. I'd love to hear, what have you been doing during this social distancing? What have you been doing to keep yourselves entertained? Have you been contributing for others' entertainment? Or have you just been focused on what you can do? Have you been more productive in this time that you maybe have had either away from the general public or in your own time and space, being able to manage your household and such like that? Copy, you are correct. I've seen a ton of social media that says everyone with a Switch has been playing Animal Crossing since last Friday. It's been a great way to hang out and spend time with each other. I continuously see little posts coming out from Animal Crossing folks saying that they're opening their farms and please follow the rules or whatever posted, which I can only assume is the multiplayer aspect of Animal Crossing and the way in which you build up your own property and whatever you're doing, and then invite others to come check out your world, I believe. Noting that I have only ever played Animal Crossing on my 3DS for a couple hours and got tired of pulling weeds and fishing. And so it is not a game that necessarily draws me in. But as is the case with a lot of things, I'm just not the target audience, I believe. So that's what little bit I know about Animal Crossing. let's see what else about. Gosh, Tiger King. Again, the personalities are probably some of the wildest people you could imagine. The stories they tell and the things they say on camera, even themselves being entertaining, border on unbelievable. And it's one of those things that every episode, I believe, as I watched, continued to amplify the story that the producers of the show did a phenomenal job with capturing all this information and presenting it in such a way, editing out, so that it creates a much more dramatic portrayal. And it just gets bigger and more over the top and almost sensational, to the point where I had trouble believing, like, this is happening. It really is. Or to the level of, well, of course they did something like that. Why wouldn't these insane people do this? But it's been a good time. Watching it with the group was entertaining, because getting to share in other people's reactions as everything was happening really added to, I think, the enjoyment, because that's the kind of show you can watch it by yourself and it's a hot train wreck. Watching it with others just makes it even more so, where it's just like, dang, my sensibilities only could take it this far, and I see that everyone else agrees that this is outrageous, that what I'm experiencing is nigh insane. And so it's something I definitely recommend to check out, at least. I don't know if it's something that's going to be a paid plugin in the future, but Netflix Party, for the most part, works. Last try to finish up, I got a notice from the group that I've been watching with, that they were just wanting to watch the rest of it, what was this, on Friday night. And without enough warning to really get things set up, and I was trying to get it done on my in living room computer. And at first I thought it was there, but I then tried to follow up on my main computer where I'd done it before, and could not get the plugin to work. I could watch it like with them, but the actual chat wasn't coming up, so I wasn't able to see all the great discussion back and forth about the ridiculous scenes we were witnessing as they occurred in real time. So I missed out on the last 3 episodes of getting that social interaction, but overall, I know that all of them were feeling similar to me in just watching the shenanigans. It's something that, go for it. Thankfully, I know a few people are sensitive to what could be considered cruelty and potentially bad things with wildlife, animals, and such like that. While this one talks in some levels about the situation around, it doesn't focus heavily, I'd say, on any of the bad things. And so when you do, it's like, okay, yes, it happened. Yes, there's some probably bad things that animal folks won't appreciate, but that's not the focus of the story. So don't worry too much if that's a concern of yours. Hando, as he brings up, saying there's a big thing where the guy that does the Tiger songs was lip syncing some other artist's work. So I'm curious about that. I haven't got into any research myself about his videos, because I was commenting amongst the thing that whenever Joe, was it Joe Exotic, whenever he would play one of his videos or get up there and sing, I was kind of like, wow, his voice is pretty good. And I'm to a point of me thinking he is almost too talented to be this ridiculous entity, should be doing music perhaps. But when it says lip syncing songs, unless they paid for someone else to sing it, because the lyrics in a lot of those songs are so specific that I can't imagine anyone outside of that industry would have ever sang those songs. Just, it seems insane. As well as, I think it was when he sang at, was it his own wedding with his 2 husbands? Or was it another? No, it was at the funeral, I think, for one of his husbands, that he sang, that I had to believe it was actually him singing, because everyone else was very uncomfortable about the lyrics. That I personally, without knowing whether or not there's truth to it or not, think that he actually sang or something. I have no idea. No, there's so much that can be discussed about the things you come to experience in the show. It's wow. And more. It's so wow. So yeah, if you have access to Netflix and want to pass away, I forget how many episodes it is, 8 or so episodes, maybe more. I will recommend actually going out and seeing Tiger King. It's a ride. Yeah, that's definitely what I will say. It is a ride. I was entertained, but I also will say a challenge because I think it is more entertaining in a group. And so I will recommend checking out, at least if it's free, at least now, the Chrome extension Netflix Party. Set up a party and invite your friends and at least chat with each other if you can't be in each other's presence directly, if they're not someone from your household. So that is going to be my first thing of what things I've been doing to myself get through a bit of this social distancing and what's been going on with all that is happening. Next, in a similar sense of meeting up and a hanging out, also on Friday, earlier in the day, shout out to my buddy El Campo. Anyone who's been to Game Fest has consumed with and knows Campo. He shared with a bunch of us via social media that it was officially on Friday International Whiskey Day. And so with International Whiskey Day, we set up a group invite to use what has boomed recently and probably has been helped by this whole quarantine coronavirus situation, the tool online called Zoom, Zoom. It is designed to do kind of group meetings and video chats, things like that. I think it actually has more interaction you can do than just that. But we used it to have a virtual multi-person meeting to all get together and imbibe at the same time various alcohols, each of our whatever kind of whiskey we had on hand. Apologize as I wet the throat. But in doing so, it was entertaining as heck for me because I had been seeing all these people talk about the Zoom app and having actual work meetings as they were all learning to telework using this new application. And I was just like, oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't know anything about it. So I get this invite for Zoom, and it happened to be to meet up with a bunch of guys from work I know and to drink whiskey. So we met up. I think we had total got about 10 or 11 of us together in a moment, all in different windows in the video, and we just chatted. It started off a little slow, just kind of going like, hey guys, so what you been doing? And just kind of looking at each other. But we all kind of pulled out our various, glasses of whiskey and started having a few sips and sharing what all we were each drinking, which was nice. And then as maybe it was the alcohol flowed or such, we just got a little more raucous as we had our discussion and such. But I did comment multiple times on how entertained I was that my first interaction with the Zoom app was not for anything work-related, but instead was just to hang out with friends. But it's cool because as far as I can understand, it's free, and it's something that any of us could get together and do. It's something that if people would like, I could even set up a Zoom party if we'd like during the week or after the show or something like that, so we could all jump in and chat versus just doing the Discord or anything like that. Also, it just had this quick invite link, so yes, Earthweaver was able to jump in with. I got Ken on there for a moment, as well as we random threw out to a few people. I invited a couple others, like friend from work, and she responded like, I'm in my PJs right now and drinking vodka, so I don't know if I'll join. It's like, hey, I don't think anyone will care. But that was a lot of fun. We actually hung out longer than I expected because I was planning, admittedly, maybe to somewhat break the quarantine issue with someone I know who I had been interacting with pretty consistently, so whatever risk we had was probably shared already. But we were just going to actually have a dinner meetup. And so as I was talking with everyone, I knew I needed to let go so I could start making dinner. And we just kept chatting. And I took it from being on my desktop because it was fun that I started off just on the headset with the normal gaming one. But after talking for a little bit, was like, but I've got this whole studio set up. So if I'm going to be on a conference call, why not use the good microphone? I think I kept it on the Logitech camera versus putting it on the Canon. And so it was doing that and just kind of like, why, hello there, everyone. How are you doing today? And then I'm like, whoa, Earth can attest to that, as I was just like, why not use all the equipment I have here for the show to go ahead and communicate with people? But I also know that when I do that, because I did a similar thing just doing a Facebook chat with one of my work colleagues, and I realize I get into a little bit of show mode whenever I have the cans and this microphone in front of me, that I don't talk in my normal voice. I project a bit more. And it was interesting because my coworker was saying, like, you do not sound like what I'm used to. It's like, what do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. And I had this difficulty, and I don't know if I can do it in such a way that any of you will appreciate it. But when I try to not project for the microphone or talk for the show, let's see if I can pull this off. So when I'm just talking normal, it's kind of like, hey, everybody, how's it going? And I just talk, and it's not a big deal, but I'm purposely not right now projecting my voice. I'm just like, hey, what's everybody doing? And da-da-da. And when I talk like this, gosh, this is hard. I feel like it should come off a little bit higher pitch, but I don't know. Oh, gosh, I'm already flipping back into radio mode. Oh, that's difficult. It's, again, whenever I have the microphone in front of me, and because I can hear myself through the cans, I talk like this. I talk like I do on the show. And so, if nothing else, it sounds like I got feedback from Hando that he could tell the difference. But I guess that when I just work with folks and just talk in general, I speak more like I just did. But that's actually really hard for me to turn on during the show or whenever this is in front of me. Big part of it's because I hear myself in the cans. And so once I hear it, it's like, well, I naturally adjust to it. All right, so Zoom, awesome part with that. I also was able to take from the desktop where I was doing it just via the app here on it and using all the nice stuff too. I was like, well, I'm going to start on dinner, but I still want to hang out and chat with all these morons from work that I'm enjoying, that I am a part of. And so I was able to just grab the app on my phone very quickly, switch over, had 2 accounts for a second running, kill the one on the desktop and walk over to the kitchen with me, prop it up, and I got to talk to people or listen to them while I was making dinner. And so it kept going from there. So if nothing else, I can give feedback that the Zoom app itself is surprisingly simple to interact with and use. It was really easy. It's just like, well, there you go. That works great. And so, yeah, let's see. Oh, okay. So I just got a real-time text from my mother talking about Zoom, since she's hearing what I'm discussing, giving me a little more details, saying that Zoom is free version, and this is something that she must be right, because we were going for like 4 or 5 hours, maybe 3 hours, I forget. But it says the Zoom free version has a 40-minute limit, which they seem to be extending right now. Participants have a choice as to whether they share their video. They can still have live audio and see what others are doing. So it's very similar to a lot of other apps how they do, but because it's all basically set up web-based, it works across platforms really well. So thank you, my mother, for giving me a little more information about the specifics of the Zoom app, since I didn't get into the details. I just kind of said, all right, well, this is cool. I'm enjoying this. And so in general, just it worked out really well. So good feedback, good to know. Couldn't necessarily use it for the show without having to pay for it or such. So, yeah. All right, continuing on. So other things I've been doing to pass time and make myself, I don't know, not go stir crazy. I keep struggling with that. I am both an introvert and extrovert, and those 2 aspects of me normally play very well together. I get my little bits of social interaction when I'm at work and have people in the cube around me that I can talk with on occasion, chat, and do things like that. Get up, walk around, visit people, and actually have conversations with. As well as often on weekends and stuff, I like to go out with a group here and there on occasion. I don't do it often, but when I do, I usually enjoy it and I can really get in with the group. And almost equally, when I then go home, I like to, disconnect, or at least not socialize directly with people, get on, play a few games, watch a movie or 2, things like that. And usually I manage it quite well. Sometimes if I have a whole weekend, like people see me at Game Fest and they think, holy cow, Wayne must be this massive extrovert, because I put a lot of energy out there for everyone during Game Fest. Soon it's over, I spend the next week basically hermiting by myself, recharging. But in general, I'd like to think that I have a decent blend of the 2 and can function properly in both. I will say that with this distancing aspect, I've had struggle keeping the extrovert nurtured and working harder on trying to get the introvert active and doing things. And so some of the things that have been doing, just on my own level, my gaming chair that I'm sitting in, that I never put on camera because it's the faux leather on it is completely, not completely, but shredded pretty heavily. I think on the back of it, you can see where this is all pretty much worn down and such. And of course, where I sit, even worse. The frame of the chair is solid, nice, and it's one of the most comfortable chairs I've owned to just sit in gaming. It's not a fancy, Racer X or any of these other kinds of big, expensive, YouTuber chairs and stuff that are out there. It's just a good one I got, I think, at Office Depot years ago or something like that. That has served me well. However, in serving me well, it has also been worn over time. And one of the major things I must unconsciously do, and I'm starting to realize because of how I sat, is I lean to one side quite a bit when I'm just watching things or just using the mouse. And I started realizing my elbow was just digging into the arm of my chair here and down to the metal. And so it's just, this is not comfortable. What is going on? And so I kept thinking, man, I'm going to have to get a new chair. I don't want to. I could go steal one of the basement chairs that are all broken from all the previous people that have donated to GameFest. But I like this chair. So then I had this moment of thought. It's like, or this is really just a light metal frame with some fabric, if you will, over padding. And it's all just connected via like bolts, glue, and some sewing here and there, some stitching. So what could I do? So I ended up spending a day and a half, 2 days overall. I got some of this old foam I have in the basement that people at GameFest have seen, this memory foam that have both been like toppers for beds and stuff in the past that I've saved for projects and such. And I took some and cut it up to match the size of both the base of the chair, because the padding in it was also dropping and dying, and the actual arms of it. And so I was able to get that padding out there. I cut holes, used as any good cosplayer knows and such, or seamstress, my solid seam ripper, because these things are amazing, and just found a seam that looked good, ripped it open until I found the foam, stuffed in new foam, and then hand sewed the whole thing back together. And while not nearly as pretty as it probably could be, it's good. It is good. It is comfortable. And like my elbow is not digging in the metal anymore. I also added to the base of it where I just on top of the fabric or the foam that was already there, just added more. It's like not truly memory foam, I don't think, but it's a dense foam. And now even, the rear end is significantly happier sitting in the chair, which I think was a positive environmental upgrade for me at home, since I am now spending much more time per week planted right here as I'm not going into work. And so probably one of the better things I could do with my time as I am trying to get through not being able to go through my normal routine. Yes, it looks like I have received email from you, Pusa, so thank you for that. I will get to that when I transition into more geek-related things. Also, I've been in general cleaning the house. For people, no one else will appreciate this really because no one's able to be over, but I've had more time to do these little projects of organization. Not still where I want it. I still need to tackle this office further. There's things under my desk and in the corner that you can kind of see in the background, some of the clutter that I have there. But even that's getting better. I've found more things I could just throw away that I stopped and said, Wayne, you do not need this. Let it go. And so I've gotten more of the house put together. I put up some more of my artwork, both in my room. I put up artwork in the weight room. Some people might have seen my Instagram post on that. Pictures and posters I've picked up from various conventions and stuff, continuing to decorate, which is nice, and things like that. So a lot of time in the house, vacuuming, cleaning up little things, and trying to fix things as I find them, because why not? I'm here. And so that'll be wonderful. And gosh, so other things as I react to the messaging, 3D printing a chair would be a pain. That's a lot of printing on my smaller printers. I agree that yes, Pusa, CNC milling would be awesome, or if nothing else, getting doing it out of wood and doing a mill or something would be great. I do not have the tools for those, unfortunately, let alone the raw material. And like I said, I fixed this in a way that I do know how. Hando, when you're talking about these upgrades you would love to get with an Uncle Sam's check, good question on that, because while legislation in the U.S. has passed one brick into, what was it, this house? I forget which side has it right now. That's still debating on, I think, full passing of it or not. It'll be interesting. I know in the initial draft that I looked at the details for, I will not receive any kind of check. I make too much money as an individual and a homeowner, so I will not see a thing. And yet there's going to be businesses that get billions, if nothing else, and grr. So that as well. Let it go. Yes. No. What are you talking about? I did see. Oh, I did see. So I finally watched Frozen 2, And I will say that I found a cosplay I want to do, which is the primary King's Guard that had gone up to the north with. Once he showed up, I was like, what is this? An older black gentleman with salt and pepper hair. I could pull that off. And so if I were to do anything, it would be, and I forget his name, but it would be that gentleman from Frozen 2 as a costume. Although I'd have to find a wig or something for it to hide all this hair because I'm not ready to cut it yet for the sake of costuming. All right. Other than that, I've also been trying to be more physical. I've been doing a light, as I'll say it, keto again. Currently down about 9 pounds from when I started. But attached to that has also been, you've heard me talk multiple times about this run club thing I've been a part of. Sorry, this is going to be a talk cough, not a COVID cough. But, and I will take a drink to lubricate with that. But I've been trying to continue my weekly runs. I'm doing at least 3-mile runs every Wednesday. I've been adding to it a second day of the week to try to make it so that the once a week doesn't hurt as bad. And unfortunately, my group can't meet because all the places we do stuff have been shut down from indoor hanging out. And the park, even though there could be a light group of us, we're not in the same household, and that's kind of the rule here in Denver right now, in Colorado. We wouldn't be able to meet up and truly interact. You'd have to maintain distance stuff. So we haven't bothered and haven't really talked about it. But I'm making sure to keep my activity up. So been running still. Went for a run yesterday where, admittedly, I've had people in the past criticize me at my speed saying, well, that's not really a run. That's more a jog. Yes, it is. But I went yesterday more for distance to give myself a bench up so that hopefully as I run these shorter distances, it'll be easier in the future and maybe be able to speed it up. So normally my 3-mile runs yesterday turned into a 6-mile run that I did around my outer neighborhood. I was proud of myself that I never stopped. It was something that mental game there of wanting to. I wasn't sure if I'd yet got myself enough runs in to get to a point where you can kind of run forever. You get to a certain point where you just stay at that speed and you can kind of just keep going. I'm not quite there, but did okay. So ran around the whole neighborhood. It was kind of eerie. There was a little bit of traffic out, but very few people actually walking about. So I was mostly alone that whole time, just listening to music and kind of scooting along, which was nice. But I did it. I was pretty happy with myself. Now, my legs are reminding me today. They are not happy with me. Definitely sore, but at the same time, I feel good about it. Hopefully, I will be back ready to go again this coming Wednesday so I can see if I can apply it for any more speed. But I'm definitely trying to keep active. I think that's a good thing everyone can do, even if it's just in your own house. I was listening to Scotty B DJing one of his sets from last Saturday this morning before the show, and it definitely got me up off my butt on my feet dancing as I was getting other things ready together. And so that was fun and a good effort anyone could do. I did some sit-ups, things like that. But I definitely recommend that if you're stuck there's a ton you can do, even without equipment, just body weight. The old-fashioned stuff you always know are out there, jumping jacks, sit-ups, push-ups, all those kind of things. But be active. And the nice thing is you should still be able to go out in public, meaning out of doors, and walk around the neighborhood, get some sun if it's available and things like that to keep mood up and keep active. So that's something I've been pressing to try to do and be more a part of. All right, since we right now have we're not expecting to get Ken back this show, let's go ahead and transition over into a little bit of...
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek Cred, level up!
So I wanted to talk more a geeky aspect of all this, as well as to read what you guys have been up to. So as I get into this, let me jump over and start with your emails. So first one coming in from our good friend Hendo. And it says, its subject is Plague World Update. See if I can get to it. I wish I had like the radio announcer voice like do 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 do. Hey, now everybody work. I wish I had the old radio announcer voice. All right. Hey, X-Men! Really, the only 2 things I've managed to do this week besides survive is play unhealthy amounts of The Forest, where I learned that the cave entrances make for damn fine defensive bases. That makes sense. I also turned my houseboat into a battleship by putting a catapult on top. I'm now the terror of the West Coast, much like a Viking. Also, attended an online AV video switcher training seminar with about 450 others. That's cool. At first, I was skeptical and was unimpressed with the first hour, but the following 3 hours really blew my mind. I got my hands on simulation software for set equipment and hope to have a productive week messing around with it. Streaming may have to wait because I'm very late with the rent and my lovely landlord cut off the building internet service to my apartment. I'm now on my phone for internet. Wow, that is shitty. I'm just going to throw that one right out there. Shitty. Oh man, in a situation like this, one of the things that I would lose my mind over would be not having solid internet, because this is what happens when, my instant reaction to hearing that, Hando, is that it makes those memes I see about Eat the Rich more palpable, as well as the comments that I see a lot of people talking about how landlords are essentially reacting to these situations. Some being good and talking about, not charging for a period of time, for 30 days or something like that. Although I've also heard some bad situations where some are saying we're just delaying the payment, but in 30 days you'll have to pay 2 months rent, which is equally insane. But to cut off a service that was likely going to allow people to not lose their mind during the situation, especially when so many internet providers are essentially extending bandwidth limits and caps and stuff. I know with mine, with Xfinity through Comcast, they sent me a notification that because they are offering for the next month, I guess, everybody unlimited bandwidth, but because I already pay for it, they are crediting me the currently $22 I spend for that feature. In the future, it'll be $50, but I have a discount for signing up. And so they said they'd credit me back $22, which I give them something for, because at the same time on my internet, I have seen, and it's not worth doing during the show right now, speed test, but while I pay for gigabit, I have not seen since they started the bandwidth stuff, so about 2 weeks almost, week and a half, more than about 120 megabit per second down. And while I was by no means getting a consistent gigabit, I was pretty good getting anywhere from lowest at like 350-ish up to highest about 890 down, and it would fluctuate between most often 500 to 600 megabit per second. And so sitting at almost a consistent, 120 bugs me, and I wouldn't be surprised. I've not been able to find any confirmation online to say it's absolutely true, but I have sneaking suspicion that Comcast, while opening up everyone's bandwidths for not giving them a limit to how much they can consume, have instead limited everybody's width of how much data or how fast their data is processing. So I'm pretty suspect. I don't have any evidence, but it's awfully coincidental. So we'll see how it comes all out of this. Thankfully, having even 120 is still really darn good and allows me to do everything, but that was an issue. All right. These are good times, is what Hando says. Hope you guys have a good week. That coming from Hando. Again, man, that bothers me in many ways, and it pushes me towards the level of, like I said, eat the rich. Rise up. Because I've seen a lot of people talking about how what's an essential business, what people can still work and do, and this weird state where landlords are going like, hey, you all still need to pay me regardless. And one of the comments coming back really analyzing or giving some shade to landlords by saying, so wait, what's your job exactly? To just sit there, own a place, and expect us to constantly pay you for doing what? And a lot of logic, or a lot of norms are being questioned, I'd say, in this time around the world. And I have hope that we will see some positive action come out of all of this, even if it's just some people in general having a different thought about situations around the world and how people interact. But we will see. We will see. Let's see. Earthweaver is mentioning, as I was talking about the physical activity and stuff you could do, there are some great workouts on YouTube for in-home. We are having our players do some of the sugar pop workouts. Now, when you say sugar pop, Earth, the first thing that comes to my mind is the song that I know. It's like, sugar, sugar, sugar pop, whatever that song is. Yep, I can hear it in my head, cannot replicate it for you because, one, I don't have that talent, and two, I don't have that voice. But I'm curious if that's what those workouts are based on. All right. Wow, Pusa, do I miss your emails. As I have to sit there and decide whether or not I read the subject you provide us. Man, it's been a while. Nope, not gonna read all of that. That's great. If you don't know, Pusa has a better opportunity to break the show than I think most people whenever she's emailed in. Because just if nothing else, because of her subject lines. And I will give it a piece where it says, long and hard for your mouth, or yep, very hot. Ah, jeez. All right. So, Pusa's email. She used to send us pictures of cats and name them equally poorly so that as we tried to open them or read them on air, it would be just awful. All right. So, though, if you're hot because you're running a fever, that should check with that you should check with the thermometer. Have a continuous dry cough, has headache, or are experiencing difficulty of breathing, you should contact your health services. Do not go. Call ahead and tell them your symptoms. If it is corona, you should not be sitting in a waiting room with others. That is something Mr. Corona would tell you to do. Status in Denmark. Very much and apropos. Thank you for answering my call. All right. February 27th. First confirmed case in Denmark. A guy returning from holiday. March 11th. The Prime Minister declares a shutdown of schools, the public sector, save from essential functions, lasting 2 weeks. 1 week later, the shutdown was extended for another 2 weeks, lasting until after Easter. No gatherings of more than 10 people. Borders are shut. Daily press conferences from various ministers, plus a few experts on whatever topic they're talking about. Shops in malls and centers are closed, save from food stores and drugstores. Restaurants are closed. Takeout is okay. Hairdressers, tattoo shops, and physical therapists are closed. To prevent massive layoff, the government is paying 75% of the salary if the company pays the remaining 25%, while people are sent home without being able to work. Wow, that is lit. That is such a smart way to deal with this situation and influx money in at the lowest level where it matters the most, because those people who then get paid can continue to shop, which continues to satisfy the entire economic future of the country. How woke. Unlike here, where they want to pay rich companies to stay rich and not necessarily help anyone, and are still laying off people and no proof that they'll ever get their jobs back. Hey. All right, my personal status. Husband's role-playing buddy was tested positive on Thursday 2 weeks ago. Ay. Husband played with her on Tuesday. I was sent home in order to prevent me spreading it to the entire factory. I'm bored as bleep. Having been stuck in the house with the kids for 2 weeks, only leaving the house to exercise the hawk. In doing so, Pusa says, I've made puppets. Both Mr. Corona, a commissioned dragon, the Respawn sock puppet, and helped Spawn make his marionette Birdie. I've cleaned the house. I've bought a falcon. Wait a second. A 3-year-old Lanner falcon will pick him up when the country reopens. Okay, so you've made purchase on and still hasn't received yet, but that's awesome. I've designed a new version of my teacup holster for steampunk. That's awesome. Would love to see how that looks. I've cleaned the old rabbit stables to make room for the new falcon. And I've watched the world go insane and people hoard toilet paper. Lots of love coming from Pusa. Thank you very much for that email. And if anyone else would like to participate, I would love to hear more specifics, especially those of you in other countries or states that I am unaware of what is happening in your lives. What have you been doing? What have you noticed specifically about how your area is dealing with COVID-19? So yes, thank you for that. Very much appreciated. And hey there, Games of Wrath. Welcome to the stream. And was saying that you're just thinking about that. Going to be sad hearing of all the small business that will have or already close their doors. I've been hearing little tidbits. My friend that I've actually maintained contact with a little bit, one of the things she does is work part-time for Core Power Yoga, which is a chain of yoga studios around. And she was filling me in that she, because being a part-time employee, got a call or was invited to a call with the whole company, CEO up, down, talking about what they were doing. And they essentially laid off all of their workers because they're all closed. And at least with the sense of they are all welcome to come back when things come open again. So I'll be curious to hear that how that goes long term. My expectation of that is that if they're officially laid off, they can all collect unemployment versus them all being this weird nebulous state of not knowing if they'll get paid again, how they'll get paid, things like that. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works out for that specific entity. I'm in that weird case where I am charging on a fake charge number to my company the time that I'm sitting on my butt at home. I unfortunately was told that I am not allowed to telework. I had actually set up some things I could do that would have been very much supportive of the work I do normally. But due to some of the specifics of the contract and how they're interpreting things, I was told not to. So I'm charging this number, and I'm in this weird nebulous position where I don't know if after everything turns back on, that means that my company will take it out of hide and can make sure I got paid, or if the government who supports that contract will make sure I get paid because of that. I did see a clause that said something to the effect that if you are forced home from this, that I forget how the benefits said, but essentially that I would still be getting paid. And worst case, what I'm worried about is the company saying, well, nope, you just were suddenly on vacation for 2 weeks or so, so we're deducting it out of your PTO. And that is a possibility, but we'll see what happens for me. I will admit I am fortunate in that I have those as my primary options. I am not in a situation where I'm worried about not having a job to go back to. I am not in a situation where I'm worried about not being able to pay my bills. And so even though I have some uncertainty, I also know that I am in perhaps a better situation than a lot of the people that are listening or watching the show. And so I am also very thankful that I am at least in that position that I'm in. So those are just some of my realities. Not terrible, but just my little bits. And again, I know very specifically, Hando, what you're dealing with and things like that. And so everyone's got their own level. So like, yeah, that's about as deep as I'll go into my piece of it. But yeah, as you sit there and said, Pusa, socialist communist country taking care of people who need to be able to work when they reopen the country. We're skipping over the layoff rehiring process. God, that makes so much sense. And so, yeah, it's as much as people like to claim the U.S. as being so big and good about so many things, I struggle in situations like this where we are supposedly the most wealthy nation out there, and yet we can't seem to pay for anything that matters. So, personal opinion. Continuing on more towards, well, actually, I'm going to share a little bit more of not me geekery, and we'll see if I can do the proper desktop share, although I may not have updated that one correctly. So what I'm going to share now, and let's see, on this one, so that I don't accidentally play it on there. Okay. So this is going to be a representation of good old-fashioned geekery. So this coming from one of my friends that I have not met in person that I'm aware of, I think. I was looking through when we were talking on the Zoom chat. He came in to help drink whiskey with us. And I looked around, I was like, I don't recognize him. Maybe I have, and I have. I'm sorry, Thomas, but I think he's someone that I've met strictly through our online Facebook community in the VtW nerdery page that we have, where we share all kinds of silly memes. If you're not a part of VtW nerdery and like to be, message me and let me know. But he shared he had just finished building his man cave. And so in his man cave, I'm going to show the video walk around he gave us. I think everyone who watches this show will heavily appreciate the commitment for what this man has put together. Now, I will preempt and say that I give him a lot of crap for, he always posts these finds and stuff he does, and he's huge about retro gaming. And I appreciate retro gaming. I just speak from the level of, but I'm happy to emulate something instead of trying to find all the hardware. He don't believe in that noise. He likes all the original raw everything, playing it as it was originally intended. And so he has found some neat things, and man, has his collection gotten sick. It's so good. So I'm going to share with you now, if this comes through properly. That is not what I want to share. Go away. There we go. In here, the page, we're going to show, this is just a Facebook video that I'm going to play through. I told him I would share this on the show today. And he doesn't talk through it all. He just has music in the background that would get us in trouble, so I'm just going to play it silently. But as it goes through, I'll commentate through that he's got his basement set up now. He finally got it all finished and everything in place. So he's got space for traditional tabletop gaming and such. He's got a wet bar ready to go, or a fridge underneath, and place for the booze. Little side couch in the corner there. And then starting off right, he's got stand-up arcade as well as a pinball machine set up in the corner. And we actually had a lot of discussions recently on the pinball machine because he got what is perhaps my favorite pinball machine of all time, Pinbot, which is one of the first motion arcade games I'd ever seen where the little face cap on it opens up and does things. Also in there, he's got a multi-machine there with several games on it. I think, are they all Nintendo-based? Yeah, the Play Choice. So that you can have traditional stand-up kind of play. Unfortunately, my cam is not working on this one yet. I didn't set it up right. Going through, he's got a little bit of table hockey set up there to play. Again, good old-fashioned analog gaming, which is always fun. Then he's got memorabilia, so the hockey team and such. There's a lot of people in our chats that go back and forth on that. I give credit. Under his Super Nintendo sign, a whole bunch of original Nintendo powers set up. We had discussions about this, and unfortunately my collection got wet once, and I only maintained a couple of my good ones. I love the Star Fox piece that's there. But look at this shelf. Look at these games. All the way back to Sega CD. What? Original Game Boy, and not just a couple. Super Nintendo and all the good cartridges. And even to on top of Virtual Boy. I guess just for show, because why would anyone play that? TurboGrafx 16, a bunch of old NES games. As well as the boxes, all the original boxes for so many of his machines. 2 CRTs, and I think a small LCD in the corner or a flat screen otherwise. Two of those set up with old consoles on them. Again, original boxes all the way down to the original PlayStation, but not straight original because it has DualShock. Oh, man. Just the nostalgia of that. And I love the detail he went into of display. So all the cartridges around and even setting those ones up in the corner to kind of show off. Now up to the future as he gets to GameCube's, PlayStation 4, and all the other games he has on the shelf. All of his various consoles that are set up, active, ready to go, which is pretty dang slick, even though I think that was an original Famicom, as well as another older maybe player. Then what, some N64, missed some of the bottom ones there, 3DS, all the mobile. I love that you have, what was that, the SNES Canon one? I forget which that was for. And that is his gaming setup, and I just want to kind of share that with everyone because I admit when he showed it to me, I had to like eat crow a little bit, where I gave him so much crap, and was like, "Nah, dude, that was really slick. You have a good setup, sir. I appreciate it." And so I wanted to share that with everyone else. That's something he's finished up prior to this, but his is good. Much like I follow my buddy Benson for his displays when it comes to miniature mecha and things like that. Man, if Thomas doesn't have one of the best just retro setups I've seen in some time. Thank you, Copy, the Super Scope for SNES. At least I was right which system it was for. I just forgotten specifics because I never owned a Super Nintendo. And so for me, I was like, I think I know this one. Scratching the old nostalgia side, but I do not have it myself. And so, yeah, no, that was great. Oh, is that you in our chat? I wasn't sure if Thomas, if you were joining us. So, but yes, I had to show off your display. And so, congrats, sir. While you won't convince me to not keep going emulation, you have a heck of a setup in your basement retro. Good job. Good job. All right. Other things I have been doing that are a little geek, and then we will take a break and get into some news after that. I have been continuing to donate to the cause, and that I have been keeping my robots busy, sort of. They're not behaving as well as I'd like, and they keep causing me challenges, so I've had to throw out a few. But I've been continuing to print more of the face shield headbands, the Prusa 2 model, RC2 model. They have a newer model, RC3, but I'm still taking to the 2. These headbands that are being donated, essentially, for people to be able to have face shields when they are limited in what they can purchase. So hospitals, nursing area, like even some food prep things, like I think the food shelters and such are trying to do something like that too, so they can still serve people. And that way these are being donated, as well as people are donating the plastic that you just clip onto the pegs. So I've been donating those. So far I only was able to send 8. A friend of mine came around and picked them up, and it's great how he did it. he just commented us and said, could you put them in a bag and put them on your front porch in the sun to help them just sanitize? So I just got some Ziploc bags, put a bunch out there, and then he messaged me when he got here. It's like, acquired, taking off, hope you're doing well, such as that we can maintain our social distancing. But that's been fun. I have another one go. I have a couple, like 3 or 4 more done downstairs. I actually need to check with the group because we have a online community piece for here in the Denver area of who needs to gather them, where they're going, and things like that. Yes, Pusa, I do actually also have Folding at Home going constantly right now. It is up and it is active because during the show, let's see, it should be actually going right now. I think I had it playing still on my second video card. Yeah, it's running on my 660 Ti, which I use just for physics processing. And so I don't need it while I'm doing the show. So that's running. The other 2 are waiting for me to be idle again, but I have been running Folding at Home, and I've joined the team PCMR, the PC Master Race Toy team, because I didn't want to completely fanboy and go after Linus's Tech Tips team. That way we could be against them. So yeah, got that one. So printing headbands, those are getting collected, being organized, so that's really cool. Also, what else have I been doing? Let's see. Star Citizen. So, all right, time in the section to bring up the Star Citizen. Actually, I can share screenshots, I think. Yeah, it's always good to have, admittedly, to share screenshots from any of the Star Citizen shenanigans. So, shout out to Preacher and to Asteroid Blues once again for sponsoring good, fun group times in Star Citizen. So again, while you may not be able to interact directly with folks, you can interact virtually. And this time we had another opportunity to get together and to do some racing. Yes. All right. Let me get this racing window in there so I can show it off to everybody of what we've been doing with some of the screenshots I took. Because I'm silly that way, and I like to document what we've been up to. All right. So as I get this one over here, there we go. And admittedly, if we did get big in the Folding at Home, I'd start my own team. I just hadn't even thought to. But yes, everybody should get Folding at Home. It's free. You can have it for, I think, all different OSs. And you can download it, and you can actually customize it to only use when you're not needing it or things like that or more. But there's a lot you can do with it. All right, going to my desktop share again. And this time I'm going to see if I can't turn off my little overlay since... Where are you? Oh, it's probably in that. Yeah, I'll turn that off. Since my frame is not working here. All right, so as I go through the screenshots today. So this one, and Preacher, feel free to comment in the chat as we go further with the details on it. We did another race in the Tumblers, which are these little, I guess they're all-wheel drive officially, front and rear-wheel drive articulated off-road vehicles. Open cockpit, and so you just kind of sit there. They're 2-seaters, and they have a little storage area in the back. And what we did is we met up on Microtech, which is a planet that has one of the newest planets that came out, one of the first ones that allowed you to kind of do the planetary tech, getting around everywhere on the surface. Unfortunately, currently, it doesn't have the any buildings you can actually go into really to have a city structure. It has a couple mock-ups and little ones around the cityscape, but it's a really neat planet. It's mostly snow-based. It has environmental things on it. When we first showed up on the planet this time, it was snowing heavily, and as we waited for everyone to show up, admittedly, I streamed it for anyone who did watch us live. That might take a little while, and who knows, maybe go edit it down. But it's shenanigans and one just getting all of us together on the same server. We all have to kind of make sure we're at a place where we can jump out of the game, get a group invite for everyone, and then Preacher launches it. And the nice thing is once you're in the group and they launch it, it gives you the option, even if you're already in game, would you like to group launch? And if you say yes to it, it'll reset you right at that moment into wherever you would respawn into the world. And you're now all on the same server. And so we essentially, and this one of the challenges that Preacher, and thank goodness to you and the Blues for all the setup work that goes into this, because as he's just saying in the chat, there were no landing zones on Microtech, and so there's nowhere for you to actually spawn a vehicle. In fact, the closest you can go is they have a port up above on the other side of the planet, which is actually kind of annoying because you can't quick fly directly to where we were going to race it down. Because the name of this planet or this city, oh man, it just went off the top of my head. I know Preacher will be able to say it in the chat because I know you know it. But they essentially had to grab these massive ships that we have in the fleet that the Blues have to load as many of these tumblers as they could into the loading areas. behind them. And so I think it took 2 trips where New Babbage, thank you, Preacher, I knew you'd have it, where I think you fit 4 or so, maybe 5 of the tumblers into the Starfarer, that big ship, and I think the others came through, not in the Connie. What was the other one? I forget what other ship you guys used to pull the rest over. And so in doing so, they had to manually go rent, purchase, or whatever, all of these different vehicles for us to race in. They sponsored it, so we didn't have to go rent our own, which is, again, big shout out. And then they trucked them over to us so that we could all jump into them. And this is our setup. So initially lining up by a light post, and you can see, let's see, it should show, I don't have cursor on the screen, but in the distance, you can actually see a couple of these other light posts. And the goal was to start here at New Babbage, just off the city track, and to follow this cut through path of light posts, which mostly had openings through the trees. So it was fairly open, although admittedly a little hard to find everything. I may or may not have gone off course slightly and got penalized and then came back from it, but still. And then we get lined up. I forget how these screenshots all go out, so I'll start progressing through them. We had, and God, I love Kyle the Kid for helping us also with this. He brings out his beautiful luxury liner, his 890, to kind of set things off, and it's really easy to see and get around and all these things. So he has it lined up behind us, this massive boat of a ship. And we all just kind of get together, and then when it gets go time, essentially, I was too busy racing to take shots during the actual stream. So this is all before and the next one's after. But then we take off and we ran through this course. When I did go off course, because I found basically a shortcut, because I would go into first person mode to see the beacon to where Preacher had parked the ship that we had to go to. Basically, they park a ship out at the finish line. You have to go around the ship and then back to the start line. And so he's able to sit in his ship and watch everybody and thus keep track of who makes it around when, and that people actually went around the ship. And so the problem is where he was at was not direct straight for the course. It was one where if you follow the light post, which you're supposed to, the course kind of winds around a bit and kind of goes a different direction than him initially, goes around some building stuff. I ended up kind of just trying to go straight towards him at one point because there was a little bit of a break from where I saw the poles. And I was just going along, I think, an open, like, frozen lake or something like that. And it was like, oh, man. And it's like, nope. You went the wrong way. Look at you cutting time off. And I was like, what? And so eventually I turned back, found the light posts again, like, oh, okay, here we go. So he called me out and said I had to take a 10-second penalty. And so I just stopped, counted out 10 seconds, like 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Until I hit 10. I was like, all right, go. And kept going since I got penalized for cutting course. But admittedly, it was all of our, except for Paz, I think, first time seeing the course. And so it was a bit of a challenge. But it was nice compared to the one we did. What was the other planet we did on Yellow or something that we did the last one? This one had better gravity. So these tumblers did not go off the rails nearly as bad as previously. Because one of the big concerns in them is you can flip them if you turn too fast or do things. And on the other planet with low gravity, if you'd stop, it would always endo and go front end, like almost flip over. And so it was, we then, had to go back and forth. That is true. Preacher wanted us to race at night because the light posts are more visible. And unfortunately, because it takes so long to herd us cats, get us all into the same place so that we're ready to race and get all the vehicles there, that the day-night cycle on the planet had lapsed, and we actually started racing right at sunup, like just as it was starting. But the race was fun. We had a lot of change in selection where even though I got a great start off the gate, went off, had to get penalized, got behind second, then third, and kind of back and forth. The terrain is such that even with all that, you don't know what's going to happen. Because there was a point where I think Paz was actually leading and almost back to be first place. And he flew into a ditch and flipped over and just got stuck. And I think it took him long enough, although he was so far ahead at this point, that I actually jumped over him because I hit the same ravine, but I hit a different bump. And so I jumped over. I was like, who did I just jump over? And Paz just like, that's me. But he was able to maneuver it and get it flipped back over. And I still think he came in 4th or 5th after that out of like the 9 of us. And so even in that, and then as Earth was saying at the very beginning of this discussion about the, about the bandits, the last half of the people in the race that basically they all got screwed up at one point, flipped over and stuff like that, took them a while to get fixed and righted, that they said, well, those who are in the lead, the first half, are all on their way back. And So they, instead of wanting to finish the race normally, they decided to try to run into us. And I will admit that actually killed my potential for first place because I jumped and it was so close to clearing a person coming at me, almost Dukes of Hazzard over him, that I barely clipped and it spun me around like a top. And then when I started going again, I was like, okay, I was landing on my wheels, good deal, go. And I realized I'm going the wrong direction. Crud. Had to flip around, come back the other way, and someone passed me right then. Oh, that messed me up. And so, yeah, Paz, he would have won it outright, no question. But in the end, I did finish up second. JK Karen got first, and was it Sergeant Stabby got third? And so looking forward to, this is great. Again, huge shout out to Asteroid Blues because they hosted these things. They actually had like legit prizes. Last time they'd given a gift of a ship away. This time they gave away gift cards essentially for in-game that are like real world money gift cards, as well as a in-game item, a swag item of a coat or a jacket or such. So that's like really cool. All the various things they provide, and huge shout out. It's so much fun. All right, I am late to the break, and I'm going to finish this story, and then we'll take the break, and then we'll come back and talk some news. I say this because I know there's some people here that want to hear Saree's song that I'm going to play during the break. So as soon as I'm done with this, we'll get to that. All right. So the other things real quick. Hey, sorry, Pussy, you got to leave, but glad that you're actually going because you have to go to sleep and work tomorrow. So thank you for joining us. Always happy to hear from you, Pusso. It's been a while. Yeah, miss your ponies too. Dang it. All right. So after the race, and this is fun too, to document the thing. And I had no idea because one of the challenges in Star Citizen right now still is that people don't always show up where they legitimately are relative to each other. And so I kept standing by the various cars because Kyle the Kid wanted us to get a picture to commemorate the race of first place, second place, third place, kind of stuff around one of the tumblers as a kind of a podium type thing. And I thought I was in the right place, and I kept hearing the discussion, but I couldn't see anyone else standing by it just because my client did not show them. And so I walked away to this other one, like, here? And I started getting yelled at, like, no, not there, the other one. So I went back to the other one. I was like, here. And I'm looking around. I don't see anyone else. So they just directed me. I was like, okay, I'll just stand here. And supposedly there's some screenshots out there for some of those we took for the victory pose. So I'll have to check those out. I started playing around, like catching them. Is this you, Preacher? I forget who was on the ground that was laying in front of me, but they were doing like sexy man pose. And so I wasn't sure who that was. I forget who did that. Whose picture was that? I forget who was doing it. Who was in that armor? But we were checking. I think it was Preacher, right? Because you were doing your emotes. You were dancing as well. So then, after the race was done, for those who stuck around, we went out and did a safari around New Babbage. And so we took out the tumblers that were still alive. Several exploded. And we doubled up and kind of drove around. And so I was partnered up with Spin. And he basically took the wheel so that I could play cameraman and just observe what was happening. And so we just kind of cruised out and about. And then eventually we started figuring out the capabilities of these tumblers. And so we started taking them mountaineering, is how I was saying, through the forest. Instead of, I think it was Preacher, someone said, there's a peak, let's drive there. And kind of like as the crow flies, drove straight towards a mountaintop. Here, as we're getting to the tops of the mountains and showing off some of the engine and just how beautiful this dang game is. Yes, it's an alpha. I'm not telling anyone to buy it. But if you do, or know what to wait for when it hits something more stable, or if there's a sell on lifetime insurance and game packages, maybe then. But, man, it's a pretty game. So we finally got up there, up on this peak, just like middle of nowhere. And then I got a couple screenshots of looking over New Babbage as the sun was rising. And just the lighting coming through and how amazing that looks. So that was a lot of fun. Because we started from almost the other side of the city, I think, when we started the safari that we went on. It was nuts. So got out there, made up the mountains. These are kind of the rocks we were going up, and the physics are silly in this game. Like, they're pretty good, and sometimes we got to the limits of what these things could do. Then we decided we wanted to get up on that observatory, because why not? This is after quite some time of going up crazy rocks, flipping over lots of times, having to right ourselves, all of these different things. And this is actually a point where I think I had to take the wheel because Spin had to run off for something real quick. So again, going up over these mountains. Yeah. Love the lighting. Oh yeah, that was where we finally got up to the last peak. See the whole city of New Babbage. Anyhow, so we continued on. Now to the observatory. So this is a moment kind of in between things. There's a few things going on in this picture. I'm in the front, or right here in the middle, and I have flipped the tumbler, which was a common occurrence, so don't think that was anything too bad. Above and on the right there with the broken wing that you can kind of see floating is Pause. And I forget what ship he's in. It starts with an E. I'm terrible at the name so far. I need to learn them all. Essentially, it looks like a huge stealth bomber, and it's a really cool ship. It's got a very flat delta wing shape to it, though, or kind of diamond-shaped almost. And what you may not be able to notice on there is there's a tumbler on top of it right now because they found that he was able to get low enough. And actually, throughout the eclipse, thank you, Preacher, as we're doing our mountaineering, he would come around and poke us with the front of the ship whenever we would get over, like upside down, and he was able to turn us over, right us. So he was our support for all of our adventures. He did great. But they were able to get a tumbler up on top of it. Oh, I had to get another shot. I did. Sun was setting, I guess. That's how long we were out. So here is a shot. This is the last shot right before. In fact, you can almost see this is right on the back side of the observatory. We found a slope that he was able to get there, and they found you could stack tumblers on top of ships. And in doing so, the challenge was they don't, as much as they do a lot of things in the world that link objects together and focus them so that they're interacting in a logical way, in most ships, like once you go into the cargo hold of the ship, you actually see your realm it change. I've talked about the bubbles before, where you're now relative to the inside of the ship. And so now when you move, you're relative to the ship versus the universe. In a situation like this, because we were interacting with the exterior of Pa's ship, we weren't tied to it. And so in doing so, when he would start to move, the tumblers would stay in place, and he could actually slide himself out from underneath us. And in doing that, you in a tumbler, we found, you could still do this, would have to move with the movement of the ship. So as he's backing up, in this case, we'd have to hit forward to keep on the ship. But our goal was for him to take us up over this little lip onto the observatory so we could land on the observatory and be where no other tumbler had gone. Unfortunately, when we finally managed to get all three of our tumblers onto it, it did not last long. I didn't get the actual explosion. It's on the stream. Oh my gosh. Right at that moment, the ship done blowed up. And I had just slid off of it as right as he started moving. I had just started sliding off of it, and so I landed on the ground seconds before the rest of the ship exploded, along with essentially the other two tumblers. And so you see one of the wheels there on the ground of the tumbler there, and just in the corner on the right, you see one of Pa's wings, and those who no longer had transportation on the ground. Anyhow, so that's essentially what I wanted to show from the race. It was a good time. We did do another thing here where, was this the 890 that came over? That we actually got, I want to say Kyle brought the 890 again over and opened up the landing bay, and we did some straight up like, all the different movies have done this kind of thing where we ramped a tumbler from the ground over to it because there wasn't anywhere for him to land. And so he was able to hover it just right where we were able to get the spin, was able to drive the tumbler up and jump Dukes of Hazzard into the landing bay to get it in there. And then as he took off to get out of there, I ran in, jumped in the seat so I could just get some of the screenshots of the 890 again at night because it's always pretty. I think that's the Starfarer in the back there, the big ships all together. And that was pretty much it. That called it a night for me. As they took off and entered space, I left and called it a night. And I don't know what other shenanigans happened afterwards, but it was so much fun. All right. With that, it is time for me to switch us back over, and we're going to take a break that I had promised actually 15 minutes ago for Saree because I wanted to make sure to play her song. In this break, this is going to be, let's see, I have it set up here. Oh, whoops, wrong category. It's going to be Right Before My Eyes from Saree McIntosh. And let me know what you guys think. I will include her information and links in the show notes so that anyone can check her out. You can find her on Spotify. You can also find her on YouTube and I think some of the other services, as well as her brother Taylor. And so, like I said, there are a couple kids I know that are breaking into the music industry. I also have done some acting. Are both amazing dancers, and so I want to make sure to support them, throw them on there. And if it's a big enough deal, if you think it's cool, maybe I'll try to get them on the show sometime. So up to you guys what you think. But with that, you're listening to ShowX on twitch.tv, VtWShowX, as well as on YouTube and other places, Mob Crush, Facebook, all of those places. But with that, we're going to take a break. Be back right after this song. It'll be about 3.5 minutes? And we will continue on with some news. All right, everybody. Be right.
"24 hours is gone. Same thing tomorrow, and on and on. With every tick and toll, I'm begging the clock, please stop. I don't wanna lose today. Tomorrow's just a blink away. All my life's flashing by, right before my eyes. Magic 8 Ball, tell me, will I be famous by 17? I look not so good. Guess it's hard to make it in Hollywood. I don't wanna lose today. Tomorrow's just a blink away. All my life's flashing by, right before my eyes. Worry about the destination is my temptation. I don't wanna lose today. Tomorrow's just a blink away. All my life's flashing by. I don't wanna lose today. Tomorrow's just a blink away. My life's flashing by, right before my eyes.
You're listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. All right. So with that, hopefully, like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, they are really cool kids. And so I am happy to support them and get their names out there. I think Saree told me that she has another song coming out in the next couple weeks. It's about to hit. And Taylor's got like 4 songs out, I think, right now that you can get pretty much any of your song media. So if you are curious or want to know more, let me know. Or check out the show notes after everything's done. All right, time for us to get into a little more of
Technology, news, and more today on the Geekoscope.
So I've got a couple of articles in here to share, and because it's just me, I can do all I want. All right, first thing in support of, again, things... Actually, I'll come off with the news report right away since I talked about it earlier in the show about Zoom. And, yeah, that there is an article in here talking about that there was some criticism that recently came up saying video conferencing app Zoom is now going to stop sending your data to Facebook. So for those who are not sure or weren't aware, Zoom, one of the things they had is a feature in there where you could basically log in through Facebook. And in doing so, unfortunately, it did little more than just log you in. So this coming out from, this is from what? DigiWorld.com's news. It says popular video conferencing Zoom has updated its iOS app to remove the software development kit that was providing users data to Facebook through the login with Facebook feature. Earlier this week, a network traffic analysis carried out by Motherboard said that Zoom for iOS was sending data to Facebook without making any mention of the practice in its privacy policy. And so a quote from them says, Zoom takes its users' privacy extremely seriously. And we originally implemented the login Facebook feature using the Facebook SDK in order to provide our users with another convenient way to access our platform. However, we recently were made aware that Facebook SDK was collecting unnecessary device data, quote unquote. The company spokesperson was quoted as saying in a Mac Rumor report on Saturday. They also said, we will be removing the Facebook SDK and reconfiguring the feature so that we'll still be able to log in with Facebook via their browser. Users will need to update the latest version of our application once it becomes available in order for these changes to take hold. And we encourage them to do so, says their spokesperson. So I will give credit to the company Zoom for one, they probably got this thrown in their face because they became so popular so suddenly due to people now having to telework. Where they were trying to do something for the convenience of users and just added this Facebook developer kit. Unfortunately, like they said, they came to realize that Facebook was using that to then collect people's information because that's what Facebook does. That's how they make money, advertisements and people as a commodity. And so I am happy that they then took upon their own initiative to not support that action and therefore cut it off. So good on them. And be aware for any time you do log in with Facebook, essentially that means you're giving them access to everything you do. Better or worse, sometimes it's worth the convenience, sometimes, but it's just a knowledge thing. Not saying you can't or shouldn't, but be aware that they do. All right. Also coming out, let's see some other good things. To continue to support everyone in their time of need of distractions or things that they can do just within their home. A discussion that Steam has joined in on offering free games to support people in this time of need. This article coming from AutoMobile.com says, a lot of publishers and stores have been offering up free games to their audience to keep people entertained during the self-isolation period, and it looks like Steam will also be joining in. Steam announced that they will be offering up Between Two Castles and Project Mercury for free so Steam users can claim them and add them to their library while the offer is live. The first game is a strategy puzzle game where players are paired up with another player or AI to work together to complete the Mad King's Order. Project Mercury, on the other hand, is an action-adventure game with a cyberpunk theme. There are 8 stages of Alien to Fight. Between Two Castles will be available until the end of the month, while Project Mercury will be available until the 8th of April. Once you claim it, it's yours to keep. So I'm a big fan of anyone else who's giving out free games. So I wanted to make sure to share that with everyone before it goes away so that you too can take in on the fun. All right, another quick notice about upcoming things. This one's not free, but one I saw recently, and it was like, hey, I know a lot of people were fans of this, and so I'm kind of curious. Coming from DSOG, the dark side of gaming, news about NieR Replicant Remaster is coming to the PC via Steam. It says Square Enix has announced that a remaster of the first NieR game is currently under development. NieR Replicant Remaster will be coming to the PC via Steam, and below in this article you can find the announcement trailer. So I will copy and paste that in there if people would like to see the video themselves. It says NieR is a spin-off of the Drakengard series, which I'd totally forgotten, and follows the 5th ending of the first game. The remaster is based on the Japanese PS3 version of NieR titled NieR Replicant. It says, unfortunately, there's not any other details about when it's coming out or any of that, so feel free to check it out. Ooh, a direct question into me about Half-Life Alyx. Look at that, Daedalus. So, yes, the answer is yes. I did stream it a few days back. I got Alyx when it launched. Actually, the day before it officially said it was launching, they gave it and made it available. And downloaded it, had it preloaded prior, and so jumped on it pretty much right away. I forget how many hours have I put into it so far. And I keep trying to decide when I should play it again. Or if I should stream it more or just play. I put in 3 hours into it so far, into the game, kind of checking it out with my original Oculus Rift. It is a VR-only game, and I've been enjoying the heck out of it. For people who aren't aware, Alyx is a prequel to Half-Life 2 that focuses on the main heroine that is your partner in Half-Life 2, Alyx. It is great. I'll put it that way. It is interesting because it being a prequel, at the same time, it is a brand new game. And so the visuals on it are, in my opinion, much improved over Half-Life. over Half-Life 2. It's interesting. I was watching a discussion of that from, what was it? From Linus Tech Tips, from Linus, when he did his little review of it. Minor review, more of the hardware side of things. And he was saying that he didn't really see the textures being much improvement, but I will say that going into especially some of the head crabs and such, when you start to really interact with them, especially the newer armored ones and such that are way thicker, I could see the visual upgrade. They look creepy, to say the least. I forgot how much Half-Life in general, Half-Life 2 especially, does have a lot of creep to it, is a somewhat scary, almost horror type genre game with a lot of the creatures you have to interact with. But it got my hairs raised on my arms multiple times. Because like any creepy game, it's one thing to just be in the world and experiencing it. When you're in VR and it is everywhere around you, every little sound, every little tick they do, every little flash or something just catches you and you're like, oh man, where is it? What is that? I know something's over there. And I recall the first moment I kind of jumped, or where the anticipation of what I knew was coming first hit me. And it was going right before opening the door to the contaminated zone. You have to go into this little cabin to either turn things on so that you can actually push the button. And I was walking by, I'm using a modified version of the mechanic where they have 4 versions of how your motion is. One is traditional teleport, where you just thumbstick, I'm going to go there, point, let go, and you're there. I'm using the second one, which is point and slide. So you do the thumbstick where you're going, and instead of you just blink, you're there, your character moves, like slides over to that location pretty fast. Found I'm okay with that. I think the other 2 are both continuous motion ones, where essentially you push a thumbstick and it moves you as though you're walking in that moment. For me in VR right now, that still makes me nauseous. And so I do not do the direct motion ones. I tried when I went over to, just before quarantine lockdown stuff, when I went over to John's house, John and Beck's house, to check out their VR, and I played Skyrim VR. I'd mentioned it before. That one they had it in the slide motion, normal motion one. And I could feel my disorientation and nausea kicking up as it went. So I know I couldn't play it for long. This one, for me, that middle or that second one up is actually really nice, where it's not as easily comfortable as just the teleport, but it's right there. It's really close. So that's going to be my baby steps into more of the regular motion. Also, it is just clean. They did things in Half-Life VR that shows that Valve 1 is still one of the premier game developers out there for human interaction, for knowing how to make something fun, entertaining, and engaging. They still brought all the main elements of Half-Life's world into the experience. I'm only 3 hours in. I think for a solid play, I might be taking a little slow. It's like a 10-hour experience, which is not bad, especially for a VR game. That the physics that they're attaching to it and the way you can kind of touch, feel, and do things in the world just makes so much sense. If you do watch my stream video that I did on it, I marveled just where you start on the landing, kind of looking out at the world, that I could reach over to the radio, grab the knob on the radio and tune it, as well as grab the antenna and pull it up, the old-fashioned extending antenna. And it's just because it was a real-life object in the VR world, essentially, that just made sense. And so I did. I interacted with it like I would a real object. So I went, grabbed the antenna, pulled it up. I heard the static, and I started turning the dial until I caught a station. And was like, okay, that by itself is flipping awesome. It is so cool that they did think to that. I then picked up a glass bottle next to me and tossed it at a bird that was on the rail. Not at the bird, but next to it. And it broke realistically on the ground. I was like, okay, thank you. Because so many things, especially in older games without the physics of it, a bottle would just bounce around as though it was like an invulnerable object. This one it broke on the ground when it hit. I was like, thank you. That's actually really cool. And then when I went into the office first time, and gosh, there's so many little things. Like I said, you can see the details on my stream. And if people want, I'll stream it again. Because I wasn't sure. I know some people watching a VR stream's tough because you get that motion sickness almost by watching someone else's head move around. It can be tough. But when I did, there was next thing I ran into that blew my mind. And I've seen other people do similar with it and actually take it to a further extent. they had markers in the game. You go in, there's this like kind of dirtyish like glass window that was just on the other side of where you start on the balcony. When you go into the little, I don't know, not gazebo, but like kind of like an atrium on the outside there. And they have these markers there I picked up, and I just turned to the window because it has some graffiti on the window, and I know they did this on purpose to get people to do this. They know they did. They had to have done it totally on purpose because it had some equations kind of on the screen, on the glass. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I pick up a marker, and I was like, well, I wonder. And I drew on the glass with the marker, and I was like, what? And they had like 4 colors there. So I picked up the different markers and drew in each marker. I was like, okay, that is really cool. And they had an eraser there, and I picked up the eraser, and I could erase the stuff on the screen. I was like, oh, what? And so I kept going, and I started doing, I did like my little simple punk artwork that I learned back in like middle school. And I was like, can I do it? Let's see. And I drew this little punk real quick, and I was kind of like, yep, that was remarkably satisfying to have things interact in the world like I would want and expect them to do. It just worked so good. Picking up things, tossing them around, all of that was great. And then the main mechanic in this one, because it's not like in the Portal games where you have the Portal gun, or in Half-Life 2 where you have the gravity gun, it's kind of this weird in between. What they did is they designed these gloves. Even the introduction of you getting the gloves is so well done, as well as other parts of just interacting with the world. But they're gravity gloves. And what they allow you to do, the mechanics totally to get you into VR, is you can point with your hand all Iron Man style towards an object in the world. And when you point to it, you basically put hand up, and it'll draw a little line or mark that you're focused on it. And then once you do that, you can then grab, you grab the button and flick. And when it flicks, whatever object it is, it basically yanks it towards you. And so it's a wonderful way for you to interact and grab things from the world. You turn, you look, and you see an item that you want. In this case, for me, it's most often ammo. An ammo clip, you point to it and just flick it, and then in a way that feels more satisfying than it's easy to verbalize unless you see it yourself, is just grabbing it in air. And so you do the flick, and as it comes at you, just grab it. And they did a mechanic where now you have this clip to put in your storage. You just drop it over your shoulder, and it drops it into your backpack. And you hear it go, or like this kind of thing. It's like, wow, that's good. And other mechanics are just the interaction in it that make it so much beyond any other VR experience I've had, where to me it's right now a pinnacle. Your gun, when you get a gun and such, and you go to actually interact and do something with it, you hold the gun, it's actually attached to your hand, and what they do, so that you don't have to grip it constantly, is they give you a thing where you hit your slider button and it opens up a menu for you to go up to a different device, empty hand, or different guns, and it's basically just a swipe of your arm that direction. So you bring up the menu, up for pistol, down for a multi-tool, left for a shotgun, eventually I got. Middle, if you just click in middle, it's an empty hand, so you can interact with it as well. Otherwise, you have gun and empty hand with your left hand. Although you get to choose what handedness you are too. So if you're on VR and you're left-handed, when you set up your character and set up the game, you can choose to be left-handed instead of right, which is, again, thoughtful, smart. You don't normally think of that in regular shooters because you just kind of shoot center in most games. But your interaction with your gun, you grab, like the pistol you start off with, a couple things I did. Great UI element where on the side of the gun, on your clip and into the gun itself, it shows lights for how many bullets you have. So your ammo level, that's real slick. You can just glance, say, oh, I have that many bullets. I did that constantly because this is kind of a horror-ish game where bullet management matters. How much ammo you have matters. Shoot for headshots. So you start with the gun empty, you take the clip, and so you either pull back out of your backpack with the other hand and you get a clip. That's what comes up there because it's somewhat contextual aware of what you're doing. You slam it into the gun, and then you have to actually do the slide mechanism, or you can hit a button to do it, to cock it. And it goes from, like, on the gun itself, a red little light to a green or blue light or whatever that says it's in there. The red light says it's empty in the thing. In fact, when you first get the gun, they jokingly say this, it has one in the chamber. And so you can pop a clip when that's empty and still have one in the chamber, and then pop the next one in, and then you won't have to cock it the next time you shoot. Actually works like a real pistol. What? And one of the mechanics I actually messed up on and forgot about was that when you're empty, it's not automatic, right? You're empty, or at any point, what you do is you click one of the buttons on that controller and it drops the mag. And it's satisfying in so many ways because you drop it, and if there's still bullets in, I've grabbed it before, although it won't let you put a partial clip into your pack, only full ones. So I learned that the hard way. But you could, like, I grabbed it, dropped it, grabbed the new one, slammed it in, cocked it, and bam, bam, bam. So satisfying and good. And then with the shotgun, similar, and when you hit the button, it does a break, and it's a 2-thing shotgun. So when you reach back and you have the shotgun, 2 shotgun shells come into your hand, and then you just slam them in the back, grab it to cock it back in, and then you have to do a little slide thing to cock it for the 2 shots, and you get 2 shots with it. That kind of interaction at first, like, it messed me up on the shotgun because I forgot you had to hit the clip release to break it as well. So I was running around away from zombies going like, what do I do? What do I do? Switched back to the pistol, shot him. Then afterwards when it was calm, was like, okay, how do I do this again? Oh, I forgot to do the clip thing. Figured it out. But that piece is solid. The interaction with everything is very solid. And it's intuitive. They do a lot of puzzles in the game that they don't give you much direction. It's kind of, they give you the right tools at the right situation, and they introduce it in a very logical way. And so when you get to it, you start fumbling around, but they also usually give you enough time and everything the first time you're doing it. So it goes back into, they also have amazing level design and progression design. Like, how are they going to introduce you with the world, the UI, the monsters, the enemies? They do the right thing with enemy progression, where you start with a head crab, then you move up to zombies and things like that. And I'm just at a point where I'm about to run into the Combine, the actual soldiers again. Because the way they introduce it's wonderful. They first ran me into some of the, God, and it's nostalgia, heavy nostalgia. The little helicopter bots that come after you in Half-Life 2, that little, like, flying drones that have razor blades that come after you. Those are the first things you run into from the Combine, and they slowly start pushing you out, where you start seeing more and more Combine dead bodies on the ground. It's like, well, I know what I'm coming up against. Again, the puzzle structure changes. There's not just one type of puzzle. They have multiple. They use a lot of the elements of just the world itself and how you navigate and get through it to do puzzles. They give you options of how you progress. The one thing that's probably missing from the game, that is truly missing, because in a Half-Life game they should have this, is melee. They do not give you traditional melee combat. And so there is no iconic crowbar that I've seen. And from reading other stuff, I believe there's just not an actual melee combat in the game, which kind of sucks, because the first time I was struggling running around where not having my gun fully loaded and short on ammo, and I had multiple armored or thick head crabs coming at me, a different breed of them coming at me. I had first time one came at my face and got on me, I wanted to like grab it and do something or knock it away from me, and I couldn't. And that part felt a little not as realistic as everything else I'd done. I felt like I should have been able to grab its leg and rip it off my face and then shoot it or something. Or if it was full body, like stomp on it or something. I'll have to play with that some more. So other than the fighting, the interaction, shooting is on point. You look down the sights, you'll shoot where you're shooting. They also do some upgrade elements, which are awesome in the game, where you can upgrade your guns and things like that with things you search for and find in the world. It's a Half-Life game, so it makes sense to go look around the world and find as much as you can, both ammo as well as just items that you eventually get enough of this material that allows you to use these Combine-based systems to upgrade your weapons. That's real slick. Again, some of the puzzles, everything from there's lots of different puzzles, but they're all really slickly done. I don't want to give those away. So many good puzzles. And it had more creep environment than I would have imagined. There was a specific one I went through where there was a bunch of I forget what they're called, but the things that hang from the roof and have these sticky tongues that come down, that in Half-Life 2 they used all the time, and you'd throw a barrel at them or something and they'd eat up and you can go under while they're recovering, or you could look up and shoot them, or throw a gas barrel and have blow it up when it hits up there, and things like that. It works basically the same way in Alex. But they did one where they really utilized a ton of those in the world that as you're navigating, and it made it tough because it didn't make sense to try to kill all of them, and they added some other elements of danger into it that's just like, as well as darkness. Man, do they use darkness well. Thank you, Daedalus, the Lickers. They did darkness in a way because, man, they start getting to a scene where they slowly introduce you to darkness, and there's a pivotal scene where they basically give you a flashlight. And in doing that scene, it's just the anticipation of it broke me somewhat, where I was like, man, I do not want to do this. This is creepy as heck. I'm sitting here in VR. I can't see anything around me. It's not like I can see my office or anything. I'm in this world, and it is getting dark, and there are creepy things out here. Why? Why are you doing this to me? And so that was cool. It was cool. And then when I get the light, then they attach the light to one hand, and so I'm doing the thing where like this hand is pointing down, where I'm going with the gun on the side of it like this to match where I'm looking. It is really good. Really good. I look forward to doing more in it. I got stuck, I think, on one puzzle for a while before I just realized I went to a dead end and should have gone back to the other way that opened. Otherwise, it hasn't really slowed me down much. It has definitely got me creeped out a couple times, but in a good way, manageable way. It has got my adrenaline going a couple times with the action sequences and such, where I was like, all right, how am I doing this? And even though I was slightly aware of having to switch between guns and things like that, man, there was a lot going on. And everything in it, and this is where it says with the VR aspect of it, the graphics are updated significantly. Because when I look up at the liquors, and they have the multiple little mouths and stuff dripping and things, and there's areas of the world you're going through the contaminated zone where it's just like organic material all around me pulsing and bubbling and making noises. Just that environmental effect of being in the world creeped me out. And so I need to get back into it. I need to play more Half-Life Alyx. It is solid. I don't know a better a better VR game on the market today. I'll tell you, Beat Saber is a ton of fun. I'll play the heck out of that game over and over. But as a complete experience, this one, I think the only one that comes close is maybe Vader Immortal. But that one was criticized for being really, really, really short. But it has a lot of like the major things you learn in VR in it as well, even though I haven't played it, read a bunch about it. But this one is everything I want in a VR game. It's amazing. It's so good. And just the UI elements make sense. Then how you interact with all your stuff makes sense. It's got minor criticisms from me. So that's about it. Anyhow, thank you, Kuro, for asking that. That is, I need to play more of it. It is good. All right, so I left the discussion saying that a new remaster of NieR is coming out. The main reason I wanted to bring it up from my perspective was that I still have not played NieR. And if they're doing a full remaster, that could be something slick, and it coming to PC. So I am going to be curious and keep track of that for people that love that series. All right. Yeah, my off the cuff was not meant to do that review. Other couple quick things I want to bring in. Let's see. Some new features that Microsoft announced that should benefit basically everyone, and that is DirectX 12 Ultimate instead of being a 13. They have new Ultimate, but the whole focus of this one is that they are going on the ray tracing aspect. So I was going to bring out, this one came from another Dark Side of Gaming article saying, Microsoft has just announced DirectX 12 Ultimate, the culmination of the best graphics technology we've ever introduced in an unprecedented alignment between PC and Xbox Series X. Moreover, AMD has shared a new tech video showing DirectX Raytracing 1.1 in action. According to Microsoft, DirectX 12 Ultimate supports all the next-generation graphics hardware features. These include DirectX Raytracing, variable rate shading, mesh shaders, and sampler feedback. Thus, DirectX 12 will ensure stellar, quote, future-proof feature support for next-generation games. The main things in that, really, it's a big part of it's about optimization and better stuff for, like, ray tracing. The nice thing is, what it'll lead into the next discussion I was going to have about consoles, is that ray tracing is coming to your consoles in the next generation. And a lot of people are saying, how's that going to happen? Because RTX is an NVIDIA thing. Well, a lot of people don't realize that in the DirectX, even current 12 iteration, it already has code for ray tracing in DirectX 12. Now, this is improving it, increasing it, so it means that any DirectX 12 Ultimate at this point, capable video card will be able to support ray tracing. And so that's how, with the new consoles that are AMD-based, are going to be able to do it. You don't need a specific thing like RTX to do ray tracing in near real time. You just need to take advantage of that code base of DirectX. Because the other thing I wanted to bring up in the news articles that we didn't talk about last week, so I wanted to talk about it this week, although it would have been better with Ken here to discuss as well. Although maybe you guys will give me enough feedback that it'll work out. Is that we now finally have all the specs for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. All right, so I'm going to take a big swig and then get into the specs and a little bit of discussion about what's coming out this winter or fall or end of this year. Yummy. All right, cider. All right, so finally the specs are out. We know. This is basically everything we know so far. So this is coming from IGN, and you're welcome to play along on the chart. So I'm going to go back and forth between the two and what we know about them. There's the first one's going to be PlayStation 5 and then the Xbox Series X. They actually have this broken out so that you can compare them side by side. Right off the cuff, I'll say basically they're almost identical. Right there. All right, so PlayStation 5 to Xbox. Price. Both of them to be announced. Haven't come out with either yet. We also have, you know what? I will share this graph so you can read it with me as we're going through. So as we come through the list, it has it and says release date. We both know it's coming out holiday season this year. Both of them are going to have 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray drives. We do not know what they're going to do for DVR game DVR. RAM, they both have 16 gigs of memory. Memory bandwidth, this in the first diversion, kind of switch between the two a little bit, which is interesting. The PlayStation is going to have just under half a gig per second, 448, where the Xbox is going to have two sets or kinds. 10 gig of it's going to be at the faster 560 and 6 gigs at 335 bandwidth, so a little less. CPU is essentially the same but slightly different, where they're both running 8th generation, Zen 2 core, 8 core whatever processors. The PlayStation is going to be at 3.5, I guess that's supposed to be gigahertz, not gigahertz. And the Xbox is going to be slightly faster clock at 3.8. Although they said, and I forget what the SMT is, I think that's something about the multi-threading or something, that's going to keep it down to 3.6. In both cases, faster than what the Sony one is going to be clocked at. They're both going to be using this new RDNA-based GPU from AMD. This one is where it does also changes a little bit, where the Navi chip they're using for the PlayStation looks like it's an older generation, or it has slightly different, where it's only going to do about 10.28 teraflops versus the 12 teraflops of the Xbox. So not huge difference, but a percentage. That we're also going to have here the difference in overall compute units, the CUs, 36 at, that are supporting this ray tracing and stuff on the PlayStation at a faster gigahertz rate, but 52 of those cores on the Xbox. So that'll be an interesting thing to see how they each take advantage of that, what they do with it. That'll be interesting. Both of them are supposed to support 8K and 120 hertz 4K, so we'll see what happens with that. The GPU slater throughput, a little bit of optimization on Xbox, nothing set on PlayStation. Data transfer, this is where it gets interesting again. Let's see. It looks like Sony's big thing is they're saying they should be able to pull data off of this specialized SSD that they've built at 5.5 gigabit per second compared to the 2.4 gigabit on the Xbox. And in that in their press announcement, their kind of discussion where they're talking tech, Sony said that you should never have to see a loading screen, that everything should be able to stream that fast off of their custom SSD that it's almost like RAM, and that they're going to be able to augment the RAM that they have in the system with their SSD. So that'll be curious to see. Now, the SSD is going to be slightly smaller than what we expect from Microsoft on the Xbox, as well as the upgrade path is going to be a little different because Sony said you can plug in more, but it's required to be as fast of memory as what theirs is when it comes out. Where on the Xbox, they said you can do kind of the normal expansion. A bunch of other information we don't know, removable hard drive, cloud storage, play as you download, which would actually be a really nice feature for a lot of these things. I have a concern with only having less than a terabyte of storage on console, whether you'll be able to hold all the games you want. I had a conversation about this with John. He was trying to say, like, how many games do you play, Wayne? And I realized maybe I'm an edge case because I have 5 or 6 terabytes worth of games installed right now, usually at any given time. But that's because I am just as happy to switch between different libraries of what I'm going to play throughout the week. I play 5 or 6 different games constantly and then jump into new ones all the time. So for me, I'm always using that storage. If I was on a console and had to continuously delete and reload games, I'd be annoyed. Or maybe I'd be more focused because it'd be forced. I don't know. Could be. Hey, speaking of John, there he is in the chat now. And let's see, what else was in there in that point? They both are going to have some kind of streaming service. That's fine. I mean, really all anyone cares about is Twitch. So as long as it goes there, it's fine. A little discussion on the backwards compatibility. I'm still disappointed that these don't just go all the way back for all of them. This is one where Xbox has an advantage because Sony's saying that it'll, out of the box, basically go for most PlayStation 4 games, that it has the same hardware in there or such that it can run it as a native situation, as well as the old PSVR. But they're missing out, in my opinion, if they don't go all the way back through PS1 because the hardware is strong enough they could run, if they don't want to have their own hardware in there, they could run license official emulation in their own console. To the point where if I can run it on my PC now and the specs of this are better than my PC in many ways, there's no reason they can't emulate all the way down to the PS1 in their own console, and you could just run any of your discs. Makes no sense you can't do that. And they could lock it down, so you have to still use discs. So many ways they could do that, but the fact they haven't announced it bothers me. And people are like, yeah, but are you ever going to play the old stuff? Yes, I will play my original Bushido Blade if I had it available on the PlayStation 5, and I'd be much more likely to buy a PS5 because I have more PlayStation titles in my backlog than I do Xbox because I never owned an original Xbox. I started with the 360. Well, the Xbox, Microsoft supports all of them. Xbox 360, Xbox One, and the new stuff. Right out the gate, that gives them a huge up on having all your old library for people who keep the games you loved back in the day. And so that's one that I have no excuse, or I can't accept Sony just not doing that. It's dumb. One of the things Xbox just announced was this quick resume feature where it'll be able to kind of keep multiple games in a, honestly, I think they're just stealing this from emulation, where you could save state and it's essentially like, here I am, and you just stop it right there. And when you come back, you load state and I'm right back where I was and keep going. They're going to be able to do that supposedly with multiple games on the Xbox so that you don't have to then reload, restart, reinitiate that game. It picks up literally where you just left off. So even it's better than a save point. It is, I need to stop gaming now at this moment. And so you just stop and you come back right where you were. Pause it, leave, come back. Yep, that's where you were. That's actually a cool feature. It's going to be new for a lot of people. In emulation, it's exactly what I've been doing for years. Stuff like that. Controller charging, we know Type-C from PlayStation, which is good. Everything, for the most part, should be Type-C. It is probably the best port right now available. Subscription service, screw them both. Consoles shouldn't have subscription services. Why should I have to pay to play with friends? I have the internet. I play for the internet. I don't have to do that on PC. You both suck for that. USB, I'm sure they will both have USB ports. Xbox talks about having a front and rear. Live streaming, I'm sure they'll both have that. Reputation preservation, I don't know what that means unless that's just your online account type thing. Not sure. Web connection, they're saying Ethernet on the Xbox. I'm sure they will both have Ethernet and both have wireless. They had them in this. It would be dumb if you don't. Bluetooth, yes. Let's see. Oh, I missed that one where you said that about the controllers. But Daedalus Kuro is saying that the Xbox still takes AA. I thought the Xbox could do both. I thought you could get a pack for it that's rechargeable or the AA as well. But I forget that. I know PlayStation plugin is just easy, and so why not go there? And make it so you can exchange if one dies. Otherwise, that would just be easy. It makes sense. They talk about they will both have 8K support, but we don't know how that's going to do. It's, Xbox at least is saying through 2 HDMI 2.1 ports. Thank you. Finally something with 2.1. We need more of that. So those are the big ones. Feature support online, they really haven't said much of anything other than that they're both paid and they have their little plus and subscriptions. So that we know, no details beyond that. All right, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to throw out, just that we had those latest announcements and that's what's going on. You heard a little bit of my commentary through that because while it is exciting that we're getting next-gen consoles that are coming out, and yes, they're very high-spec, the ecosystem of it still make me sit there and go, ugh. Because as Legend, you just said, I am very much in the camp of PC Master Race. I will preempt that. I still do not own a Nintendo Switch. I do not own a PS4. I have an Xbox Xbox One S that I got so that I could continue to play Rock Band with people. That's primarily what happens on that. Although I will tell you, because of the PC I have behind my TV, I've also been looking at, Clone Hero, which is the Guitar Hero clone that is on PC that is open source. And I've been trying to figure out how to get that working with all my instruments. And if I get that going, I may not ever need to upgrade beyond that. Yeah, so I don't know. It's one for me where I don't currently see new consoles in my future. And Kuro, when you say that, hacked is the only way to be. When I had my original PSP hacked, so good. I still have my PSP. But that's the other piece of me, like why the Switch doesn't make sense to me, is I have owned multiple, what would you describe, handhelds, and I don't play them. I just find that if I've got the time to play something, I'm on my PC. I almost never pick up my handheld instead of something else. With the 3DS, with my PSP, it goes back, like the last one I put time into was my SP, my Game Boy SP that I played because I had Metroid and Castlevania on that one. and I sat in bed and played that before going to bed kind of thing. Otherwise, I just did not. And so it's weird. I don't know. Yeah, honestly, handheld is my phone, and even that I don't play games. I play Word with Friends on my phone. Everything else that comes through, I play for like a minute, and then I'm bored and go past it. So I'm a PC gamer, and it's not that I'm against console, truly. I like them. I can play them still. I just haven't had anything that truly has enticed me, and I'm still of the camp that stop making exclusives for console. It's terrible. Make PC for everything. Keep selling consoles, because there's people who want a game on their TVs. Do that. But bring Final Fantasy Remake, bring God of War, bring things like that over to the PC. They're developed on PC. They will play on PC. Just enable it. Oh, but then we'll lose all this money on the console. No, you won't. You'll sell more of the game. That's the key. That's Wayne's rant when it comes to consoles. So I think they're neat. If nothing else, the big thing I am a big fan of for the next generation console is that they both will have the capability for ray tracing built in. I expect we are going to see majority of new games support ray tracing, because that's the thing when it's only a GPU from NVIDIA that supported it in the past. You're not going to get every developer enabling it, and the ones that have used it here and there, and it's lightly nice. I still challenge where most of the RTX bling I barely notice. I think it's huge for reflections and things like that, but nobody's really pushing it. And so I'm hoping that knowing the new hardware is going to support it regardless of which console you choose, and that all the new PC graphics cards will be supporting it, that every new game has some iteration of ray tracing. It would be great if every reflective surface and every light source had that much coming. That'd be so good. So good. Let's see. What else have you guys been saying? Legend says, I just got a PS4 for the first time last year. There were a lot of features missing from the PS4 that made me not want it very much. But Final Fantasy Remake is a big piece. And I got to play it. I said last week I got to play it when I went and visited John Beck. And it's pretty. It's awesome. I would play the heck out of it if it was on PC. Because that's the other thing I'm stuck with now, that it's a PS4 game. Why would I buy a PS4 to play it when the PS5 is coming out the end of this year? Why not just wait? Because already the PS4 is, I think, still like $300 or something. If I just wait, I'll save that money and then go buy an outright a PS5 if I care that much. But otherwise, I will just play it on PC. And no, that's not the point with using PC Now or any of those services where you still have to own that console to then just stream it to my PC. No, I want to play it on my PC on the better hardware, on the better monitor, with my better control scheme, and just enjoy that game in its better native state. And so the rest of those things are just garbage. The best one, and the only thing that's gotten close to doing it right from the console perspective, is Microsoft doing it with their allowing you to buy a game on either, well, really on the Xbox Store for the console, and also getting that same license for the same game available on your Microsoft Live account on your PC. I did that with Gears of War. The last one, Gears of War 4, I think it was. I bought it for the console and played it on PC. That is slick. That is smart. I played it natively with the actual install for the PC. And because I am PC, I can just play it. So many things. And so, I mean, yes, I like the ability to stream, but that to me is not the true nature of releasing games in their native state where they could. And that's where I think they should all be. Again, my opinion, my thought, but I really think it should. So what are your thoughts? Are you guys down for wanting new consoles, or you cannot wait till this holiday season to get what's blinging and new? Feel free to email us. New email address, VtWShowX@gmail.com. Let us know what you're looking forward to. Which one's going to win? Is it going to be the PlayStation? Is it going to be the Xbox? Which company is going to come out on top and why? I would love to know, and we'll happily discuss it further on the show. But as we're getting to the end of things, and I will not nearly be able to say everything Ken does, I will jump over and say I had one last piece of news I want to bring up, because it's just more of a, if it's true, I think it's cool, and I hope it happens. So the last one I was going to bring up is a quick one, that article came in from Variety that says Ryan Reynolds in talks to star in a Dragon's Lair film adaptation for Netflix. What? So it says that, and I've seen multiple reports on this saying we hope it's true, but no guarantees. Ryan Reynolds is in talks to star in and produced a live action feature adaptation of the 80s arcade game Dragon's Lair for Netflix. It says Roy Lee will produce through his Vertigo Entertainment with Trevor Engelson of Underground Films. Don Bluth, Gary Goldman, and John Pomeroy are also producing. Okay. Reynolds will produce through his Maximum Effort production company. So I love Dragon's Lair. I'd be so happy to see him come through because him doing Dirk Daring would be great, although it's crazy, right? Because in Dragon's Lair, he never talks, does he? He just dies in many graphic, cartoonish ways. But being able to bring that in would be so good. My one concern I do have is that his last straight-to-Netflix thing, Underground something or whatever it was hot garbage and terrible. I'm so mad that he was attached to it because it's the only reason I watched it, which meant their marketing was correct. And afterwards, I felt like I had a dirty taste in my mouth. It was so bad. All right. But if he does come and it's a good Dragon's Lair, I'm down for it. What you guys said, and last minute on that, yes, unlimited bandwidth is awesome. I was already paying for it, but I continue to use it. Yeah, I am getting my media as I need it. And so I agree with you, Kuro, on all that you're doing with that. All right, it is time for me to call it into the show. Please, if you have any comments on the things I talked about today or any of the things that we went through, email us in VtWShowX@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you'd like to support the show, you're welcome to go to our Patreon, although, again, I don't have the notes right here. Oh, wait. Which is patreon.com/showx, as well as you can follow us, Ken and I, on all of our social media. If you'd like to know more about the things I played, talked about in the show, check out our show notes. I'll try to put them in today. Things like that. And if there's anything you'd like us to cover and talk about in the future, feel free to email us as well. With that, it's time for us to get out of here. I do not know what my after show looks like today, so I may be on Discord for a minute. I may be doing something else. I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably start there, and as I reach out to see what else is happening today. But with that, also, another quick last note, which I would really like your guys' input from. It is because I currently have no idea when I'm going back to work. None. And because I'm not allowed to telework. No, don't know. I am welcome to spend more of my time with you. And so if you would like me to stream specific games or something like that, feel free to let me know. If you'd like to have some virtual hangouts, we could always go back and play in some like Pretend You're Zixi, things like that. We could play around with the Zoom app and other things. I think it's important in this time to still socially gather and do things, even if it is primarily virtually. So just let me know and let's figure out what we can do throughout this week. All right, with that, I'm going to jump out of here. And yeah, see, people, Jack Party, all these various things. There are means we can all play together, and why not? Let's do it. Heck, we could try, if Earthweaver figured it out, do a one-shot, roll 20 D&D session or something like that. I've got nothing but time. Yeah. Don't know what to do with myself. Well, I do know what I'm going to do with myself, but I wouldn't mind carving out some of that time for you. All right, guys, check everybody out. Check out the Twitch streams and stuff like that. A lot of that's going on. Shout out to Twitch for doing like Twitch Aid and doing the Corona Aid thing where they've got artists constantly playing and doing things to support and keeping people entertained. There's a lot out there. Stay safe. Stay clean. Stay interactive. Don't sit yourself in a corner and suffer. Definitely be a part with people. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a good time. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Goodbye. See you next zombie.